started Frenter back in January of 2020.
Yeah.
And so back then we were a peer-to-peer marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
So like this idea that people in, tools in their shed, you could rent them out. Then, kind of a year later, launched that, raised a little bit like an angel round, and then scaled that across Canada. We had about a dozen cities, thousands of users, hundreds of thousands of items, really essentially trying to build like the infrastructure for circular commerce. So anyone that wants to rent anything, whether it's traditional rental businesses that we want to scale, or whether it's sales-based companies that want to pivot into rentals.
Amazing.
So,
and this started when you were 16 years old, right? That's kind of the So the origins, like where does an idea like this come from?
Yeah, so I think that like it develops over time. So like 14-year-old myself had like the idea for like a marketplace, but it was very simplistic concept.
Yeah.
So then like it was almost like 2 years, like I was 16 by the time I came up with the enterprise model.
Right.
And I think it develops more. And then so back then it was more like I'm going to build like Shopify for rentals, and then learned a lot more. Then now a year later, it's a lot more about like, let's build an infrastructure platform for it, because it's not just about can we get their items online. There's a lot more that goes into it. So I think that as you kind of experience more of that, it develops your develops your thinking, and then your kind of how you think about problems is not just about like that's a problem, I'm going to create like a solution for it. It's more a little bit more complex than that. I guess in kind of a couple years ago, it was like student council, like student election. So I won that in like 7th grade, and then that was a fun kind of thing I did then. And then more recently, 9th grade, there's like the Canadian-wide science fair. And then so the Canada-wide science fair, I built a robot that cleaned up oil spills. So it would drive around the oil spills. It placed a certain type of product. In the oil spills, it would solidify the oil, and then it would scoop it up.
Wow, and you built this? Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. So where did you kind of develop these computer skills and the programming skills? Is that just personal interest?
Yeah, I think that, so I like it. There's a lot of YouTube videos. So I'd watch in the beginning, it was kind of like trial and error. So with this robot, I'd buy kind of different toolkits online, and then I taught myself how to solder, and then, would just solder wires together, and then build kind of this, just figured out how, then found videos around like, even if it wasn't specifically for what I was building, it'd be like around like, how do I solder kind of multiple components to one remote, so that sort of stuff.
Before you got into this, did you have a part-time job, as a younger teenager, or no? Did you you just focus on your studies and
Yeah, so I've always had like little businesses. So I started selling smartwatches. So I don't know if you can see it, but that little smartwatch on the wall over there.
Yeah.
That was like I bought 15 of these watches and then sold them. I still have like a watch at home that I wear from time to time, but it's they were like $10, and then sold them for like $40, and that was like my first business.
Wow, how old were you when you did that?
Probably 10.
At 10 years old. My gosh, wow.
Right now, I'm basically full-time on fundraising, and I've been that since August, and then back in May as well. So and then I guess it's also more, it's around like keeping the vision and also customer success. So those are kind of my two things. It's making sure like we're operating in a way that is one, like financially makes sense. So I'm running the budget, I'm running the financials, and also making sure that we're not getting so caught up in like the nitty-gritty of every day that we forget about like what are our big vision, like what's our big vision for this. And because a lot of times people will, they'll have a tough week or they'll have a tough month to be like, okay, like I want to hit this goal and then sell. But really, there's a bigger vision to this. So until you gotten there, you gotta keep pushing for it. My first year of official high school, like grade 9, was at a private school. And then after that, I've been in public school since then, 10, 11, and now 12. So I went in 10th grade, I think just launched or was just raising kind of my first amount of money. I was probably, I think it was 14 or 15 in that kind of range. And so that was 2021. So I was building out the concept of the business, and then had just launched in like January. So in 10th grade, I would kind of take these calls. I was in the Propel ICT accelerator program. And so I would take the calls from like my school, and like they had like almost like a broom closet that I would take them from. So that was 10th grade. And then through the pivot in the summer, I could work full time on it. But then it kind of changed in 11th grade. I went my first day of school, met with my teachers, and then I guess I sort of never came back and went fully online. Yeah, so I guess I'm probably from back when Frenter was just getting started, because that's
Yeah.
the only time I was in school still.
Yeah.
I would say that, yeah, I'm more dynamic,
Yeah.
talking to people,
Right.
trying to socialize.
Sure.
Now it's a lot more. I show up for like 10, 15 minutes of a class online. I check in with my teachers, make sure everything's good, and then
Right.
get back to work on things.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different. I was actually just at school today, so I am still kind of at school. I had to, just do some work for.
Oh, you're at the physical school
Yeah,
itself.
the physical
yes,
school.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I somewhat zone out in terms of like lectures. I mean, I can listen if it's very interesting. I can listen for a while, but generally it's probably not. Like just in terms of what I find interesting. So there can be like kids that are like super fascinated about math, and then they love that. I'm not. I don't love that. I'm more of like, I like to get it, take the information in, and then start working on it.
So, using the information, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would actually, I think nothing from my actual studies has helped me at all. I would say like I have a thing against like pre-calculus or like those just mathematics class, because they're super great. Like if you're an accountant, or even my cousin's an accountant and she doesn't use that information very much either. So it's like I think that like I like my accounting course. Like I took an accounting course last year. That was super interesting. I took programming that's relevant to me. So I think like specific like courses, but funny enough, the courses that I found useful are the ones that like don't count for anything, right? They're like free credits.
Sure.
So that's kind of interesting. I would change that to make like those courses be more important, or like have some sector of these courses, like whether it's business courses that are, you have to take a business course, whatever that course is. And then I think that the actual like the aspect of socializing with people and dealing with high school is kind of interesting, because it's like it's a ecosystem where like you have a ton, especially if you go to public school, very multicultural, very bilingual. You deal with all sorts of types of people. You deal with people that are not great to you. You deal with people that are really great to you. So I think that aspect of it is something you don't get from a private school. I think a private school where you're dealing with traditionally all the same type of wealth class, you're dealing with all the same generally sex and all the same like race, generally speaking, is not great. I think that people then, that's kind of who they associate with, and then they kind of it's not great when they get to the real world. I haven't really thought about it. If I had more time to think about it, I could name someone. There's a few that have been better than others because they had a more kind of freestyle approach to it. We dive into obscene amounts of material in math in one semester. But yeah, we'll do like an entrepreneurship course and dive into like one subject, and that's not super relevant. So if you had the same sort of fire and like drive to like push a ton of material and like a quick pace curriculum that was interesting for I would say all students, that covers business, financial literacy, law, just a whole course, I think that would be way more relevant than pushing a ton of pre-calculus. Really, you could probably educate if you had one course that was just I'd call it like life 101, and you just jam in like law, you jam in entrepreneurship. I think you got to like talk about bankruptcy, you got to talk about all these different things that are important, and you got to talk about like failure and it's like everything, like, and I think that that's what I would do, and I would bring in people from a bunch of different places, and a bunch of different backgrounds, not just like sometimes people bring in like professors and different people like that, and that's super helpful, but we need other opinions. It can't just be go to school and this academic, this is so I think and I don't like panels. I like bringing people in, letting them tell their story and not letting them get interrupted. So I just bring in lots of speakers. Every Friday you bring in someone else that's has a relevant background experience, whether it's and not people that are I would vet your people that you bring in a lot more. I think that people bring in a lot of speakers who if it wouldn't be someone that top level C-suite people would want to talk to, and that's then or university students would find interesting, or people then don't bring it into high school students, because I think that you're trying to get these people to a level where they're thinking critically, like university people or young professionals. So why would you bring them in people that don't fit that spot?